Elubana coal train derailment that saw the closure of the export line has been attributed to sabotage. This is according to Transnet Freight Rail. Now, a rail line on which a jumbo 200-wagon coal train was cut in half with a blowtorch at Elubana near Richards Bay in Kwazulu-Natal, causing 51 wagons to derail. Now, for the latest on the story, we are joined in studio by Transnet Acting Group Chief Executive, Morwe. Dade, thank you so much for your time this morning, this afternoon rather. Shall we just perhaps unpack exactly what your preliminary investigation has brought to the fore?
Well, what we found out is that the Line 1, which carries loaded trains from Ermelo to Richards Bay, was cut. I mean, one of the rails was cut with a blowtorch. On the second line, which carries empty trains going from, Richards Bay to Ermelo, the Penroll springs, which hold the rail onto the slippers, a couple of those were removed, which points out to deliberate act, to do some damage on the line.
Any suspects in this regard?
At this moment, we don't have any suspects. The police are currently working on that, and hopefully, we hope we would soon have some suspects identified. We're meeting with the commissioner Monday morning, and hopefully we'll have some good news then.
The transportation of coal is very significant and very huge in this country, considering especially the bouts of load shedding we just recently had as well. How much coal was being transported in this regard with regards to those trains?
Yeah, on a weekly basis, we transport about 1.7 million tons of coal to Richards Bay. And if you look at what we are not able to transport within the 3 days, if you take into consideration that the line not only carries coal, but you've got chrome and you've got coal meant for other terminals.
Yes.
The loss to Transnet, you're looking at about 250 million. If you're looking at the loss to the economy, the miners and so forth, you're looking at in excess of $1 billion or so.
You put the words out as sabotage. Do you have any people who you think would indeed be keen on sabotaging Transnet's operations as they currently stand?
I think the key thing at the moment is to say it's a deliberate act. I think for someone to cut a rail with a blowtorch, I mean, they really have some malicious intention on their part.
And the use for that coal outside of what you use it for, do you know what somebody would perhaps create a situation like this and what they would then be aimed at if there's anything of the sort?
Well, I think let's look at the material consequences of cutting the rail. I think the first part is the line is closed. So as a country, we are unable to export coal, but it blemishes the South African brand. If we promise customers to deliver and we don't deliver, it's not a good thing on the brand of the country.
Contingency plans, any of those?
We are hoping that by midnight tonight, we would at least have one line running. The employees have been hard at work since Thursday morning because you have to remove the wagons, you have to remove the coal, you have to put in new rail, new slippers, sleepers and so forth. So it was quite a big job.
I can imagine that it's also a costly one. So what's the financial predicament that it may find you in here?
Well, I mean, we would have to pay for the removal of the wagons, removal of the coal, so it would run into millions in terms of just the cost of replacing the broken rail, sleepers and so forth.
At best, when do you reckon you'd have full production back to normal?
I think within another week we should have both lines running. Yeah.
Access to those rail lines, though, how easy or how difficult is it? Because the question might become, maybe it's just easy to access those lines, and unfortunately, it does make it very susceptible to sabotage and the like.
Yeah, no, it's easy. I mean, Transnet, in this case, Freight Rail, has got 30,000 or so route kilometer of rail all across the country. So you can't guard all of that 30,000 kilometers. But you know, at least we hope that working with the local communities, we would be able to safeguard you know, that asset.
And continuing to make people aware of things like this now, warning them against it. I guess that is going to be a major campaign for yourselves as well?
Oh yeah, no, it is going to be a major campaign. Another problem that plagues us is cable theft.
Yeah.
I mean, we are currently losing 6 kilometers of cable that is stolen, you know, thus far.
Sure.
And it does quite a lot of damage to our ability to deliver on our promises and move cargo.
Is there perhaps research and development being made with regards to finding other means and ways of not just transportation, but certainly of perhaps communicating, of just making the process a whole lot easier when it comes to things like cable theft, when it comes to the cutting of these rails as well? Is there research and development being found to make alternative methods and ways for this, as opposed to just sticking to the norm?
Well, what we would have to do, I think, at a country level, is to make people aware of the importance of carrying cargo on rail, and why that should not be, you know, disturbed. But at some point, we would have to treat cable theft the same way, you know, that we deal, for instance, with the rhino horn poaching and stuff like that. Yeah. Because if you look at what that does to the economy, you know, it can bring this country to a standstill.
Yeah. Is rail still the best way to transport coal across the country and to the export hubs?
It is the best way. It will remain the best way for a long time.
Yeah.
What we just need to do is to make sure that it's efficient. The service is rendered efficiently.
Are you in communication with any further authorities outside of just the police with regards to the safeguarding of that coal as it transports all the way through, and perhaps speaking even to government on methods and ways to boost you know, whether it be the trains, whether it be new transport facilities, whether it be research and development? Are you in constant communication with government in that regard as well? Well,
we've raised the matter of the sabotage with the Minister of Public Enterprises, and you know, given that it's now holidays, hopefully by early next year we'll pick up on the matter in terms of the way forward on the security side. What we are currently doing in the short term is to ensure that the security within Transnet works closely with security outside of Transnet. I will, for instance, next week be meeting with the Secretary for Defense, just so that we highlight the problem and raise it to the appropriate level in terms of where government is concerned.
What is your biggest concerns then overall, just as Transnet? I mean, outside of just this situation, which of course is a disturbing one, your biggest fears as Transnet at present, the biggest issues that perhaps face you?
The biggest issues facing Transnet at the moment is getting the organization back on track, you know, and moving away from what, you know, we've been in the news for, state capture, to basically doing what we are supposed to be doing, moving cargo and operating a reliable rail network. Yeah.
What about yourself? Are you keen to take on the post on a more permanent basis, or you're just going to keep it at acting and hope that they find somebody soon enough?
No, I'm assisting the board, and I'm sure that there are lots of, you know, people out there who are capable of doing this job. What I want to assist the board is to ensure that by the time someone takes over, the organization is stable, it's cleaned out of corruption, and it's moving in the right direction, working closely with customers and with employees.
So you're not putting yourself, your name in the hat here to perhaps take the job permanently?
No, I'm not.
Okay. A bit of a poison chalice, some would say, by the seams of things. But Morwe, thank you so much for your time this Saturday afternoon as we perhaps unpack a few more issues there with regards to Transnet as well there. And of course, all the impact of that rail as well situation, the coal train derailment, that's all the closure of the export line. And Transnet, then they're calling it quite succinctly sabotage. Well, the agenda continues.